Still remains to this day probably one of the best sets of hand tools we've ever picked up, because everybody who has worked on cars or who does work on cars will know how much of a nightmare it can be when you come across these supposed single-use Volkswagen clips, right? And also then these absolute finger shredders here, these spring clips. They're a pain in the backside. They're just not nice to deal with, and most of the time you're going out with straight pliers or mole grips, and you don't need to do it because this set of 4 is brilliant. I'm going to show you why. So for starters, they have these in, and these are really good for connections like these. So you'll see this has got like a press button on it, right? So rather than having to use your thumb, you can actually activate that press clip there. So they're really good for fuel line connections. A lot of fuel line connections have double buttons on, hence why there's 2 prongs. You can do that, pull the hose off, you're well away. Another great implement in here, or great tool rather, is these ones, and these are for these annoying clips here. So these are synonymously difficult to open, because if you try and go out with a pair of pliers, you generally end up butchering them. But you'll find your way to open these, because one side is like a small pin and one side is like a ramped side. So you find the way that the clip has to open, and you essentially use the ramped side, and it will basically pop it up like so. This one has never been opened before, I don't think. And then you'll see you're able to open that clip. And then when you want to do it back up, you just flip it round, and there you go, done back up. So that is how you would use those clips. They're not single use, you can reuse them. Really easy. Now, another great one that I'll show you is this. This is for those horrible finger shredding spring clips. So you'll see on here is like a ratchet mechanism, so that when you open the clip, it actually locks into place. So if we were doing one like, say, like this for instance, just here, you would put the pliers on to there like that, you put the other side on, and then as you open that, it locks itself together. Now, that clip, you can just move out the way. There is other types of these clips that actually, when you get them so far, they will lock themselves in place, and having the locking ratchet pliers just helps with that. That's quite a small application for it. You'd probably want to use it on bigger hoses, coolant hoses and things like that. And then another really great thing in here is these. And this is why this set as one is fantastic, because this is for pushing hoses off unions once you've undone the clips. If we want to use these to actually take a hose off a union or off a vacuum diaphragm valve, so we look which way we want the pliers on there. We're going to open our clip so we can remove that from that particular valve. Obviously that clip's now loose. Then is when you would take these, and you notice how the jaws are tapered, so you can get around a variety of different size hoses. So you can do hoses like this, you can do vacuum hoses, and then essentially all you do is you just use that, squeeze it, and it will essentially pry it apart, and there we go. It pushes that hose off nicely. So it means that you don't have to wire it up with screwdrivers. There's 4 in the set, and they are just one of the most handy things you will ever own if you work on cars. I'm going to link them below. Go and get yourself some.